Welcome to Becoming Parents Podcast. I'm your host, Jennifer Campbell. I'm a doula in Washoe County, Nevada, a Medicaid provider, a lactation educator, childbirth educator, and mom of 18. You can find me and connect on doulainreno.com. Remember, give a shout out to those who are brave enough to share their stories with us on how they have become parents. Let's dive in. Welcome to Becoming Parents Podcast. I'm your host, Jennifer Campbell. Today I'm on with Mariela DeSantiago. How are you today?
Hello, I'm doing great. Thank you for having me.
I'm really excited. You're in sunny San Diego, the perfect weather in the universe. I'm in Reno. So we're not actually that far away from each other. We're West Coast people.
Yes,
I want
yes.
I want you to jump in and share your story of how you became a mom.
Yeah, so it was I'll just kind of start off by sharing that it was not planned out, but before becoming a mom, I was a special ed teacher, taught for 8 years. I had been engaged to my now husband for just over a year when we learned that we were expecting. We were kind of always like, if it happens, we're not going to
Mm.
worry about it. But we were like kind of actively trying to avoid it.
Okay.
And clearly, we did not do that.
Not if you have a child.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. So we failed at that, but that's okay. So now fast forward to we had our little boy. I was still teaching. I thought I was going to go back to work. Originally, my thought was I'll go back part-time. I want the option to be able to stay home with him if I want to. And then after having my son, I was like, I'm not going back.
Did you feel that way immediately?
Oh, yes. Oh, yeah.
Okay.
I mean, with being a teacher, I think from my perspective, it was like, you don't get paid very well. So it would have been, I would be going to work to take care of other people's children so that I pay for somebody else to take care of my child.
Right.
And how can I control and determine that my child is getting the values and the morals that we want him to learn in a setting that I'm not able to be present in?
Yeah.
And, I understand that not everybody has the luxury of being able to choose to stay home. And I'm very, very fortunate that that was my situation. So I thought, okay, I'm just going to stay home and I will, be a stay-at-home mom, which let me tell you, I thought that meant I was going to be able to get my beauty sleep. I thought that meant my house was going to be spotless. Dinner was always going to be served. I would have been able to work out at all hours of the day. It was the complete opposite.
Yeah, right. I think that's probably one of the most undervalued. Well, there's a couple things in this because you were planning on going back to work and I stayed home for 12 years also, and then I went to work, and my youngest was a year and a half at that point. So I understand it doesn't matter which way you do it, you're wrong. Like somebody's going to have something to say about it. I was a stay-at-home mom, eating bonbons on the couch, watching soap operas, right? Which is not at all remotely what it's like. It's the hardest job I've ever done. If you go back to work, you're doing the wrong thing, you're abandoning your kids. So I think moms are put in this position where it doesn't really matter what our choices are. Someone has something to say about it that's not positive, and it's a really hard decision to make.
Yes. Yeah, that and I mean, ultimately, like you got to do what's best for you and your family. So who cares what people are going to say? Because people are going to have their opinions.
Right.
You are the one that knows what your financial situation is. Some women want to go back to work. I was just not one of them. Actually, I really wanted to be a stay-at-home dog mom before I had my son,
No,
but
that's a good one. I'm totally with you on that one.
my husband was like, that's not going to work. But anyway, I
I
tried.
love that.
So, like I said, I thought I was just going to be able to enjoy what I pictured or envisioned the stay-at-home mom life to be like. I guess I was kind of thinking like, I don't know, Desperate Housewives
Yeah.
status or something. I didn't know what it was actually going to be like. So, after having my son and realizing that I was not getting any sleep, I was
Yeah.
lucky if I brushed my teeth that day or showered. I was constantly on Google because I needed to know, was he hitting every milestone? Was this normal? Was that normal? Just Googling everything, starting
Yeah.
solids, what's better, purees, baby led weaning, but why? And then you just find contradicting information. And then you have to determine what's credible. And I was like, I can't do this. Like, this is so bad. Parents are having to determine what's best. They're Googling and they're just finding information that isn't supportive. So there's got to be a better way, which is why I decided to create my podcast.
Okay.
So after thinking that, I was going to be able to enjoy time with my son, which I do and I did, I couldn't just sit back and not do anything. I needed like my brain to do something that was for myself. And that's what I chose was the podcast where I bring experts on to talk about different topics that parents Google, and those experts provide evidence-based knowledge so that you can take the information that works for you and walk away with it, right? Like baby-led weaning, it's not for everybody,
Right.
but purees, it's not for everyone. So it's more of like just giving you the information and then you take what works for you and what feels best for your family. So
The
that
podcast, I didn't
was
realize the podcast came first, but one of the things you mentioned is you were looking online totally overwhelmed, and somebody always has something to say about it. I think parenting is the one time where people think that they can touch you inappropriately. When I remember when my daughter got pregnant the first time, she's like, "What do I do if somebody touches my belly?" I'm like, "Reach out and touch theirs back." Uh, Why is it okay? Like, it's just touch a random stranger's belly day. I don't because I don't understand that. And then there's a million choices and every one of them feels wrong. It's like junior high school all over again, right? Where you're never going to do it right. If you cloth diaper, there's somebody against that. It just really doesn't matter. So, and you mentioned that it's like analysis paralysis, kind of trying to figure out all of this information. And basically it comes down to, here are lots of different ways to do this, which one's the best for you, because there's no right way to do it.
Yeah, like one perfect example of like how you're constantly getting information on what to get. For example, your baby registry. You need to put this down on your baby registry. The SNU was one that people would tell me about. And my thought was, why would I put a $1,200 bassinet if I haven't even tried the one that comes with the stroller? Like, what if my toddler doesn't need to be rocked the entire night or have this sound? Like, I don't want to depend on this because then what happens if the power goes out? Or what happens if we're traveling? Or there's all of these factors, right? So for me, I chose not to do that. We went with just the regular bassinet, and let me tell you, he was in it for 2 months. So thank God I did not spend $1,200 on a bassinet.
I mean, I'm a doula, so I tell people they get very stressed about what they should get, and I'm like, you don't need anything. You could use like a laundry basket and a stiff pillow. Legitimately, this baby is not going to know anything. They don't roll over in the beginning. Like, there's so much stress and pressure about how you need to do it when you're pregnant. And like you said, like you spent 2 months in it. I also think that in the US, we have a culture that tends to want to separate from each other, from our baby, from a lot of stuff, where other cultures you wouldn't have like uh a baby's room that's all decked out in colors and cribs and all of that stuff that's down the hallway. Like, my favorite thing to do is to get into bed with my husband at night and he spoons me and he's warm. I want to be there. It's my favorite. So, babies want a lot of contact. And I think a lot of what's happening in the US is that we're doing things to take care of the baby and we don't have to also. And that can, anyway, that's probably a different tangent, but the way we're doing things or our mindset about taking care of a human being is really diverse. So you need to take that into consideration too when you're making decisions.
Well, and it goes back to what works for one family doesn't necessarily work for another,
Yeah.
right? Like I had people tell me, oh, you need to have him sleep with blackout curtains and a sound machine and do this. I did none of that.
No.
I had him nap with the door open The blinds were open, so the sun was peeking through. My dogs were barking. I was vacuuming, and he's the best sleeper.
Hmm.
We travel and he can sleep through anything. Whenever we travel, he sleeps in his he naps in his stroller the entire time. It's amazing.
Yeah.
I mean,
I Go ahead.
I have no idea if it's because of the fact that that's just how we did it from the very beginning,
Right.
but I kind of feel like it is.
It is interesting to figure out how you want to do things. And I know as a new mom, I felt like I didn't have to stop doing anything. I just had to figure out a different way to do it. So like I was a runner, so I got a running stroller and I used it constantly for years and years until the thing literally fell apart. It was one of the best investments I made. But that's because running was important to me and I didn't want to stop doing it after I became a mom. So I looked at my life and thought, well, what am I doing now that I want to keep doing? And then how do I find a new system to do that with a child? And then if you add another child, how do you change it? I don't think you have to change anything or your life needs to be dictated by this arbitrary schedule with blackout curtains. But some people, that's really important to them.
Yeah, and if it works for them, that's
That's
great.
great.
And for
Right.
some people, like traveling with their kids is so stressful.
Mhm.
We've done it. We've
Never. Yeah.
traveled abroad twice, and my son is only 2.5, and we love it.
Yeah.
But that's because for us, like traveling is a passion, something that we've always done that we weren't going to be like, oh, like our lives aren't going to stop just because we have a child. Like, no, we
Right.
still do the things that we enjoy doing.
Yeah. I was stubborn like that too. I love on your podcast. And you when did you have the name change on it? Because I actually remember the athleisure name.
Yes, it was Mama Wears Athleisure. And then I want to say, is it earlier this year or
Oh,
within
okay.
the last year, I changed it. And the reason being that even though like Mama Wears Athleisure totally describes me as a mom, like that's what I live in, I found that a lot of people were kind of confused because they thought it had to do with like working out or they
Oh, okay. Okay.
I'm like, I don't know, maybe it's just like a San Diego thing. We all live in athleisure wear.
I'm very jealous of that. I love on the podcast. So you bring in all these different experts. You just have basically like 15 to 30-minute conversations about different things so that new parents can get information to make a more informed decision. So as a doula, it doesn't matter to me how you want your birth. That's not what matters to me. What matters to me is that you are educated about the choices you have and you've made the best choice for yourself based on being educated. You're essentially doing the same thing on your podcast. You're giving a lot of expert led scientific study research information so people are educated to make a good choice.
Yes. And I'm doing that because I needed that, but also I planned nothing out for my first pregnancy. Like I literally was just kind of like, I don't want to know anything about like labor or giving birth. It just sounded all so scary. And
Okay.
I didn't put anything on the registry for myself. And now looking back, because I am
Yeah.
more knowledgeable and more educated, like I would do things so differently. I didn't even know what a pelvic floor was or what a postpartum doula was.
I mean, lots and lots and lots of people don't know there's a doula, that what doulas are. I think in the last 2 years since we've had the option of becoming Medicaid providers. It used to be like $1,500 was upper middle class women who had educated themselves on birth and advocated for what they wanted. And a lot of them were home births. So, I've seen my business go from almost 100% home birth self pay to 80% hospital and Medicaid. So, huge disparity there that I'm glad doesn't exist as much. And California is a great state if you want to doula. They have Medi-Cal. But yeah, one is if you don't look at the information, you can't even learn it. But sometimes, I mean, look, when you're pregnant for the first time, and I remember when it was me, I didn't even know what questions to ask.
Yeah. Well, I was pretty good at that. I would like come in with like a list of questions, but it
Mm,
was still like, if I didn't have those questions or I didn't think about those, like I wouldn't know.
yeah.
And then, postpartum, you only have 1 to 2 visits depending on your form of delivery. And then you're kind of cleared. And then, like, okay, you're good to work out. I worked out up until the day I had my son. And, at 8 weeks, I was cleared, or 6 weeks, I was cleared to do everything.
Yeah.
Even though I have a background in fitness, I taught many classes. I didn't know how to get back into that space. Like I didn't realize I needed to build up my core again and take postpartum yoga classes. Like I couldn't just start running and then, potentially have my insides fall out.
I mean, that's gross. Yes. No, you don't want that to happen. I interviewed a pediatrician, and I'm sure you have also. And she said, I used to get these parents in asking me all of these questions about things that didn't have anything to do with their child, but more being a parent, right? Like exercise, because you have a baby and they're like, see you in 6 weeks. And then you see them in 6 weeks and they're like, check, you're good to go. Go have sex and work out. You're unrestricted. There's nothing in between. There's no conversations. There's no communication. The pediatrician is the only one you see. And after she had her first child, she was like, oh my gosh, now I get it. Now I know why all these parents were asking me for things. They have no one, they're not going to anyone else. If you don't have a doula, if you're not in a mom support group, which I want to talk about next, you have nowhere to get this information, and it's overwhelming. So you also have a blog. Is the blog a transcript of podcast plus some?
Yeah, so I'll
Okay.
have a lot of like businesses or products that I use through or services that are available for parents.
Yeah.
Essentially, my goal is to provide moms with resources, not only through the podcast, but through my mom group, which is Carlsbad
Yep.
Mom Crew and San Diego Mom Crew. And a lot of that might be through the form of education, like let's say a pelvic floor therapist that I'll interview and then I'll just share it in like an interview format.
Yeah.
Um, Things like your first visit to a pediatric dentist or talking about like differences between a Montessori versus a preschool or a daycare, and that just helping to educate parents because there's so much information out there, and it can you can find things that contradict it all or people that tell you this is the only way to do it because this is what worked for me.
Right, which we never want to say or do. I mean, I love how I did things and it did work for me. It is not what's going to work for everyone, for sure. And it takes a while to even figure out what is going to work for you, you know. I mean, knowing you're a runner, getting a running stroller is that equation is pretty easy, but there's so many decisions that you have to make. It's overwhelming. And then so many things you don't even know to ask. I love it. I love your blog. Your website's beautiful. I stalk you everywhere, so that's always a good thing. You have videos on YouTube, the podcast, the blog, and then the mom experience. Tell
Yes.
I that this was so exciting to me.
Yeah, so the mom experience, it's a new thing that I started. So my goal with that is to bring moms in a small, intimate gathering, so about 20 moms or so, and provide an experience through local businesses. So a local business, let's say, will offer, my first one was bagels. So it was a mom-owned business that was starting a bagel business.
Okay.
I also had a coffee cart, mom-owned little coffee cart starting out. I had desserts. I had a bar class, goodie bags with full-size products that would benefit not only the moms, but their little ones, and raffle prizes. So the goal there was to share alternative products or services for moms to learn about that were local or
Oh,
small, because as a parent, you're so busy, especially a first time parent. Like you are exhausted, you don't have time. You go to Target and you buy whatever you see at Target or on Amazon. You're going to throw that first birthday party. You're just going to order those cakes from the corporate cupcake shop or go to Vaughn's and pick those up. And so it takes too much time to Google a local bakery or this mom owned coffee cart because they're also not going to pop up. The SEO is just not in their favor.
yeah.
And what I wanted to do was share these with moms for them to actually try them and to give them ideas for an alternative to these parties that they're going to be throwing, whether it's a baby shower, a birthday party, a gender reveal. So it's kind of a way for everyone to, all moms supporting one another.
One thing I love about your entire business model, one is that you're doing a lot of the heavy lifting for other families that feel that are in that state of overwhelm and sticker shock and analysis paralysis. You're doing a lot of the footwork to make it easier for them, but then you're connecting them, which is a completely different step. I mean, you could have your podcast and give information to help, but you really, I love what you do in your local area to connect all of those people because it takes effort. It takes work for you to do that on your end, to try to get more business with those smaller local businesses. I love that. I absolutely love that. Community referral partners are the best.
Thank you. Yeah, and it's really the way to grow, right?
Yeah.
I need other moms, and how am I going to grow if I also don't have the support from other moms and just connecting with the local businesses? Because really, when you think about it, like they're the ones that are providing better quality and services because a lot of the times it's a one man, one woman show.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. And referral partners can feel intimidating, and I love that you're not, because I don't have any problem saying I love what you're doing and I want to promote it. And I would love to be promoted also, because it can be a two-way, really symbiotic relationship where you're working with the same demographic. We're not in competition at all. Why don't we just put our heads together and share resources and the community? So I love that you do that. And then you have two mom crew. You have mom crew.
Yeah, so the San Diego Mom Crew is a sister group to Carlsbad Mom Crew. That way it kind of is able to connect moms throughout San Diego County. I'm in Carlsbad, which is North County, San Diego. So it's really hard for moms that are down south to come to any events or the mom experiences that are up here in this area. So that way it's kind of the way to provide resources and events to the entire county and not leave anyone out.
Yeah, I love that. And these are in-person meetings. You do mom's night outs,
Yep.
facials, pumpkin painting party. Are these things, oh, toddler trunk or treat. So I was going to ask you, these are things where moms come with their kids.
Yep. Most of them they do. Um, so the mom's night out, for example, I don't like to leave moms that don't have childcare out. So it's
Yeah.
always like advise you if you can come without your little one, do so. But if you can't, like don't let that stop you from coming. Like moms
Oh,
understand. So we
yeah.
always allow kids to come. I have the mom experience, another one coming up in a couple of weeks. And because that's a prenatal postpartum,
Hmm.
can't really have little ones running around or crawling around. So my solution for that is partnering with a local um, daycare service that will come to the location and be able to provide daycare for anyone that needs it. So I'm really trying to bridge that gap and like prevent moms from not being able to attend something and find a solution for why they can't.
That's phenomenal. I think childcare is one of the single biggest reasons why parents don't get out and do things that they want to do. And I think it's completely okay to have activities that don't include kids, but I love that you saw that as a barrier and figured out a way around it by using a daycare solution, because it makes them, I know, parents know that makes such a significant difference. It's so appreciated when I get to go to something and maybe not have to have my child that I'm watching with someone else. Somebody else could be doing that while I'm actually having an adult conversation. So I love that. You've really looked at, well, this is how I think you think about it. You became a mom and you saw these barriers in information or barriers in decisions, barriers in what you can do, and you're figuring out, like, how do we make these not barriers anymore?
Yeah, essentially. I mean, I've experienced a lot of those myself. So my
Yeah.
goal is to solve those and figure out like how can I participate in all of these fun activities. And if I don't have childcare, I don't have somebody that watches my son that isn't a grandparent, but grandparents aren't always available.
Mariela, I love your model, and I'm trying to think of the best way to wrap this up. One thing is I want people who are in the San Diego area, what's the best way to get in touch with you in general?
My website, newmomtalk.com. From there, you can link to my Instagram, my YouTube. If you are in San Diego County, you can find me on Instagram at Carlsbad Mom Crew or at San Diego Mom Crew. But really, just you can also always send me an email, and all of that information is on the website.
Yeah. Awesome. And if you had one, what's the best thing that you did when you were a new mom? And even if that is, I know one thing that you mentioned on the show notes is having help from the in-laws.
Yes. So my in-laws helped me a lot. They helped me a lot after having my son. I think next time around, I definitely would. Now that with the things that I know, I would definitely ask for a postpartum doula, make a list of tasks for people to do when they come over to meet my baby. Like,
Yeah.
hey, can you unload the dishes? Can you load the dishwasher? Can you just change the laundry? Um, and I would really get comfortable clothes, like really nice,
Oh,
cute PJs.
that is the best. Okay, I was going to ask you what your advice would be for newer moms, but reach out to people. For you, it was your in-laws. That was depending on them, but like other people, setting boundaries. I think I always tell people set boundaries and be very clear about them. You're not here to see the baby. That's the only thing I need to do, but you can do any of these other things. With subsequent kids, pick up my older child or children and take them on a special date. That would be massive, right? But I love PJs. That is the best advice ever.
Well, you just forget that, like, you don't even realize you're going to be living in PJs, not brushing your teeth, not showering. So if you're going to be in PJs, they might as well be really nice, like bamboo PJs that you don't want to take off.
I love that. Mariela, thank you so much for being on. I appreciate you so much. This was very fun.
Thank you. It was great connecting with you.